Welcome to Dysfunctional Adults, the comedy podcast in which we discuss weird news, pop culture, and being middle-aged dads. Yeah. We are bitter, cynical Gen Xers saddled with crippling debt and depressingly past our primes. But that's what makes this podcast so much fun. Well, welcome to Dysfunctional Adults, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.
I'm going to unhide my background so you can see that it's actually a child here that's with you with all my Muppets and Ninja Turtle posters.
That's
so
awesome.
I don't know if I'm a dysfunctional adult or a child, somewhere in between.
I mean, if they're pristine, it's a collector's thing, right?
Exactly.
Look, if you're into the Turtles, you were either a child in the 80s or a child now.
I mean, I have a Leonardo sleeve.
Nice.
It's all Leonardo. Yeah, so I'm into the Turtles, I guess, until the day I die.
A little bit.
Well, you have three other limbs, though. You can have a different turtle for each limb.
Oh, that's true. So I have a sea turtle on this one. So I'm the weird I like turtles guy. Like, people are like, oh, I love your tattoo. And I'm like, I like turtles. That's pretty much who I am.
Nice.
I make good choices, as you can tell.
And those are just the turtle tattoos you can show us, right?
Exactly. I have a whale back somewhere, but we'll leave that to the imagination.
The tramp stamp of a pour this on your lower back.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone talks about the whale tail, It's
We're doing a video
why not tattoo
podcast
it?
for a reason. I want to see what you got. Come on, turn around.
You just got back from a cruise, John. I'm sure that there were plenty of whale tails, whether you like to see them or not there. Is that a good time?
It was a good time, yeah. We talked about that a few weeks back, but yeah, it was my first cruise ever, so that was a good time.
It's awesome. Yeah, I've been trying to keep up on the podcast, but I've never been on a cruise actually. So
I would recommend it. There was not as much shenanigans or stories to tell as I was hoping, but it was a fun and relaxing time.
You'll come back with 10 extra pounds and a disease.
Yeah, I was gonna say on a scale of like uneventful to stuck on during COVID to Titanic, I would rather stay on this end of the spectrum. So
yeah, I agree. We were at least allowed to get off the cruise when we were supposed to.
Exactly.
We weren't like quarantined there for an extra couple of weeks. So,
Well, hell, we have a guest today, don't we?
We do.
yes, we do.
All right. Well, Johnny Sloan, how the hell are you? It's been what, 20 years?
It has been a long time. I think I saw you at FanX for like 10 minutes a couple of years ago. John, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw you.
Oh man,
Was
been
it
filming Thomas Destiny? The zombie scene?
Probably during one of my
seen
horrible voiceovers during Thomas Destiny. Yeah.
Yeah, have I seen you since then? I don't know. It's been a while.
I don't think so.
That was 20 years ago, man.
Yeah, I distinctly remember you coming by and not buying a book. So
Me?
No, Johnny.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
I was saying hello. That's like buying a book. I don't know.
It's just as good.
Yeah. I mean, it's like and subscribe. I was liking, I wasn't quite subscribing, but
I mean, 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
yeah, you guys are all you're in Arizona now. Is that right, Zach?
Oh no, Albuquerque. They're one and the same to me. I don't
Same
care
thing.
for either of them.
Yeah. There's cacti outside.
It's 115 degrees.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny's around there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You live in like a pueblo. It's
I wish. They're awesome.
And you're still here in Utah, John?
Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
in North Salt Lake still.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm in South Jordan.
Oh, okay,
Jason
cool.
Just moved to Grantsville, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm out there past Twilla.
Gotcha.
You can smell the proving ground every time they test chemical weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, I did specifically denote an unfinished basement in some of the episodes, so it felt like a new place.
Grantsville is most known for a 1980s film that never got released that had Paul Sorvino in it.
I feel like it's where you go pee on your way to the salt flats, right? Is that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Well, what we like to do with guests is kind of just talk about what you've been doing. And the reason I asked you to come onto the podcast is because of all of the stuff you've been doing. I watch you on Facebook, and it's really impressive, all the things you're into and the things that you get done. I don't know how you have the time and sleep at the same,
I don't sleep.
You've got like 20 years of accomplishments. Each
I don't know
one makes
about
us
that.
more jealous than the last.
No.
Each one tattooed on your magnificent body.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Cthulhu is the final, frontier. So we'll get there eventually, at the end of my opus magnum. But yeah, anyway. I mean, it's been an interesting road, I think I went to East and then I dropped out.
I didn't know
and
that.
do not recommend that to children out there.
Really?
anyone coming to this podcast for life advice, probably staying in high school is the play. But I dropped out my junior year and then started. I was always a nerd, right? And made maps for Doom and Quake, and that led me into programming. I learned a bunch of programming languages through just making video game mods, and eventually landed a job at the newspaper at the Salt Lake Tribune as a web developer in like 2005. And somehow, some way, they hired a high school dropout that was hungry enough. And thankfully, it was like perfect timing. So like it was really disruptive in that time period. For the web was in its infancy in a lot of ways, and so I was able to leverage that opportunity and do a lot of interesting things over the years. I ran the digital department for the Tribune for 15 years, built their first iPhone and iPad apps.
Nice.
And then ultimately in 2008, I launched a video gaming show here in Salt Lake called Geeks. It was the Gaming Electronics Expo. We did that for 3 years. And then I met Dan Farr, who was one of our vendors at Geeks, and he approached us about launching Salt Lake Comic Con. So we partnered with him and launched Salt Lake Comic Con in 2013, and was heavily involved in that, to the point that I got sued by San Diego as well. Me and Dan both got sued while we were there.
Did you win the lawsuit, or is that why they had to change it to FanX?
I personally they realized that we were partners, but ultimately we were kind of like removed from the lawsuit when they realized that like we were just a partner with him. But yeah, Dan ultimately won, but he had to pay the legal fees, which are $4 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's winning. Yeah. So anyway, through that process, when we launched Salt Lake Comic Con with Dan, we kind of identified a gap in the market for convention software. And so we launched a product called Grotix, and we launched that in 2013. And then in 2019, sold that to a company that I work for now called Leap Event Technology, and much bigger than Grotix. Grotix was like a $3 million business. And now I work for an $80 million company, and we do like the app for the Super Bowl. We work with the NBA. We do the ticketing for Burning Man, which we can get into Burning Man later. We do PAX. We do Star Wars Celebration. We do New York Comic Con. So yeah, there's a lot of fun, interesting things that ultimately led from creating some sort of gaming event at the newspaper. So it's been a wild ride for sure. And again, would not recommend it to, I'd say stay in school. You can't be quite the dumbass that I was, but somehow I stumbled my way forward. So
Do you make the Comic Con or the FanX app for scheduling and everything?
correct. Yeah. So the people who apply, the vendor application forms, that's on Grotix. The mobile application is on Green Copper, which is one of our products. Originally, I built the mobile app for FanX for, I don't know, from 2014 until 2019 or 2020.
It's the best convention app I've used personally. So
Thank you. Thank you. We've worked long and hard. I was over product for 2 years within our current company, because we do all the mobile apps for Live Nation for the US and the UK, as well as I mentioned the NBA and the Super Bowl app and whatnot, but trying to make sure that like it resonated with the fandom convention space. And, there's a lot of people in our organization that don't know that space very well. So I'm glad to hear it firsthand from you, especially.
yeah, it's great. It gets you to your panels on time. When you're a panelist, you gotta get there in time.
Yeah.
So what was the lawsuit, the Comic-Con lawsuit about? Was it just the name Comic-Con, or was there something else they had a problem with?
It's a good lesson in ego management.
It is.
So it's about a car. There was an Audi that Dan and his team had bought, and they'd wrapped in Comic-Con branding. And it was awesome. It was a cool car, and it said Comic-Con on the front, and then it had like Salt Lake Comic-Con on the side. And they were doing some promotional photos for the fall show, because San Diego's in July, and they were doing the September show. And so they were doing some promotional photography down at San Diego Comic-Con with some of the celebrities. So they wanted to drive the car down, get photos in front of it for the other con. Well, they tried to ship the car to the hotel, and the hotel like called San Diego and said, "Hey, your car's here. We're shipping to you." And San Diego's like, "We don't have a car. Like, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, there's a Comic-Con car that's getting shipped here. Like, are you here to receive it?" And they're like, "That's not our car." So then they saw the car, and they're like, they told Dan and team, like, "You can't bring that down here. Like, it says Comic-Con on it. People will think it's us." And basically the response was like, "You don't own the streets." So they had Daniel Logan from Young Boba Fett, actually. Daniel Logan, who's a good friend of mine, he actually drove it from Salt Lake to San Diego. They did take the photos, and then I was on the floor with Brian Brandenburg and some others, and I got a message from Pillsbury Law. I have the email. I have the receipts, and it was a cease and desist, all about a car and an ego, and it just led to back and forth because the then time co-founder decided to publish the cease and desist versus like respond to it, and then that just turned into a big ego play. So, and then the lawyers won. At the end of the day, the lawyers won.
The lawyers won.
They did.
Like if I remember it correctly, they went after you for lots of stuff, but everybody was pretty convinced if the car hadn't happened, like
that was the impetus. It was like the car, but then that just opened the floodgates. And then it became, because I'm friends with a lot of other promoters, including, the guy who runs Phoenix and other shows. And they actually went and testified on Dan's behalf, because the thing about copyright, when this whole like Utah cookie wars stuff that just came up, if anyone's paying attention to that, I'm a big cookie connoisseur, but they had this whole lawsuit because, Crave and Dirty Dough and all the local cookie shops were getting into it, and people were basically exercising their trademark protections, because you can't, once you have a trademark, you can't selectively exercise protections against someone. And that's what happened with San Diego, where they had years of not going after New York, not going after Phoenix, not going after all these other shows. Salt Lake then comes and brings a car, and all of a sudden they went after them for the name. So that set the precedent that they didn't actually exercise their trademark. So if you are an exercise or a trademark holder, I'm not a lawyer, to be clear. But if you are a trademark holder, you're supposed to evenly defend your trademark regardless. And so that's why when this whole dough thing came up and people are like, oh, those guys are buttholes because they were going after these other cookie companies. And it's like, well, if they don't defend their trademark, like then they lose it effectively.
So there's even if they lose the case, like they have to defend it, right? For those listeners who aren't a publisher or a writer, copyright is with you forever. You'll also often hear people say this about copyright, but I don't believe it's true. I'm not a lawyer either. I don't believe it's true. It's just the trademark. The trademark just has to be viciously defended.
Well, to be clear, I'm a little upset right now because you're actually handling my personal injury account. So the fact you're not a lawyer, I'm pretty concerned about. But we can talk about that
now
offline.
You tell me you're not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, it depends upon what state you're talking about.
I mean, you're Robert J. Defendi DeBry. Like Jason in this case.
Well, I guess it's out of the bag.
Oh, man,
I saw your email address and I'm like, is this a play on Robert J. DeBry? Anyway, I digress.
Oh man, I'm sure that our listener or watchers were like, I thought that was Jason. But
but the good thing is I don't have to try to do his laugh anymore.
Right.
He laughs different than me. So I've been studying his laugh for a week and trying to.
Oh, you put a lot of work.
It's like a Dr. Hibbert laugh. I love Jason dearly, but it is a Dr. Hibbert. Yeah.
I told my mother's disabled. She lives with me. I take care of her. But I told my mother I was doing this, and she goes, even on sound, they're not going to pull it off. You have the most distinctive laugh in the world. I've already been studying. But no, this is all about Johnny for the moment. I think the whole reason to pretend I was Jason was so that Johnny can have the spotlight at the beginning and then not have two guests.
Right.
Yeah, Jason he's in Atlanta. He says it's a work trip, but I do know that Atlanta is famous for its strip clubs, and he did mention he was cashing out his 401k in $1 bills. So,
and his wife is a strip club connoisseur. I know Megan. You guys do the math.
Right.
Well, I saw him with some gold chains. I thought he was launching a rap career.
Yeah, he's in Atlanta for work.
At least Jason tells me that it's his wife's collection of Magic Mike in every format.
Well, hell, you blew the interview out of the water. That was fantastic.
That was great.
You said everything that I wanted to bring up, other than just a couple things. I have some questions. Did you also bring some questions, John?
I just want to hear more about Burning Man.
Yeah,
I love.
Were you on Fire
talking
Island?
about Burning Man. I love talking about Burning Man, so I'll try to be concise. But yes, it's a religion for me. So yeah, we can get there.
Do you go to the local one as well, the Element 11 one, or you just do the Black Rock?
No, to be fair, I didn't really even know what it was. I had heard that we had supported it. So when we were acquired, the company ShowClicks, that as part of our entity, has done the ticketing since 2019. I was involved in 2021 and 2020 because. So interesting factoid, a little blip on the corner of the screen. It is the second largest commerce driver for the city of Reno after Christmas. And so the city is very interested in it coming, as much as it can be disruptive, as much as the Bureau of Land Management. And there's a whole lot of stuff around all that stuff, how they're responsible about handling it, which is interesting. But at the end of the day, like, it's a big commerce driver for the state of Nevada and specifically Reno. And so during COVID, right, it's all outdoors. And so I was working with a company called Epistemics where we were trying to they basically did like disease modeling based on like outdoors and hand wash stations and whatever, basically trying to justify being able to do it. They ended up doing a renegade burn in 2020, but ultimately it ended up coming back in 2022. So I went out there for the first time, really got to know what it was. Again, I had perceptions. It was a music fest. I didn't know what it was.
Remind me what month it's in. I'm trying to
put August.
August. Okay. I was trying to put the 2020 timeline together in my head.
Yeah. It's in August. And so the first year I went out there, I just went out to help set up. So I went out for like 7 days and tried to like prepare, because the event itself is actually only a week long, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. The stake is set every year, like in July 24th or something, not related to Pioneer Day, I'm sure, but maybe it was.
There's like no amenities out there at all, like, right? Like you have to
Correct.
bring everything, your own water and
everything. Yeah, there is ice you can buy. There used to be coffee and ice. Now it's only ice that you can buy. There's a city, Gerlach, Nevada, which is not built to support 100,000 people, but they have a great little bar there and a great flushable toilet. Really, that's the highlight of that town, because when you get out on the playa, it's literally porta potties, which was problematic, obviously, when the rains came and the floods came up. You know, we all know the song. Anyway, I went out there the first year just for like to set up. And the second year, which was last year, I actually was out there for 17 days. So I went out and started setting up, building shade structures, working effectively with the people that build the city. So if you want, I can just give a quick explanation of what it is. I don't want to take too much of the time here, because I know I'm like all about this stuff. So if
people not in the West might not have a great grasp of Burning Man.
Right.
A lot of people don't, as I've talked to them, right? So Burning Man was like started in the 50s, some great documentaries on it, 50s or 70s by a guy, he passed away a couple of years ago. But basically the thought was like to build a temporary city that had no commerce exchange, that allowed free flow thoughts of ideas, etc. And that's, you know, as someone who works in the comic industry, who every weekend gets yet another PopCap tchotchke sold to me, it's nice to go somewhere that doesn't necessarily, and bless the books though. Let me just say that out of the gate. Okay. I saw your stare there, Robert. Okay. People are selling me books. I'll buy them all day. But
in fairness, I was Jason when I got on you for not buying a book.
Oh, okay. Cool. Anyway, so there's no commerce exchange once you're out there. And it's just, so the thought is like they build a temporary city in the desert. You go out there, to your point, John, you have to bring everything to sustain yourself. They have like 10 principles. I have my Burning Man booklet here. I'm basically a Jehovah's Witness right now, so prepare. I'm just kidding. But there are like 10 principles.
You subscribe to Watchtower? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff around the principles of the city and stuff. But one of the key principles for what it is radical self-reliance. So once you get there, they call people sparkle ponies that show up with like outfits and like no food, you know? So you need to show up with water, you know, everything to sustain yourself for that week that the event takes place. But people show up well before and start setting up the art camps. And that's the most interesting thing about it. So about 60% of the tickets sold to Burning Man are for the art camps. And there's different themed camps, everything from the Barbie Death Camp, which is super interesting. I can send you photos, which, you know, came out well before the Barbie movie. I mean, it's been around since the 90s, to, you know, the Orgy tent, which legit exists. No singles, by the way. You have to bring a partner or be female. And then there's all sorts of other things in between, you know, including 12-step programs, including meditation. It's just a city they build in the desert that has literally like a guide that like has like hours for, there's a people that come from Vietnam that make fresh coffee every morning at 8 to 10 a.m. Again, there's no money to be transacted. So you literally go over there and you can gift things. Most people gift a sticker. So you'll give them give them a sticker to say thanks. And you'll just have, in my opinion, some pretty authentic conversations, because there's no ulterior motive agenda, anything to push a sale. It's talking to people about where they're from and living in the moment and being present. So it's a really cool event. And then it's built in a kind of a semicircle. They build the city kind of the same every time. So it's like in a U shape. You can see right here. And so the city is here. There's street numbers and names and addresses and everything. And then in the middle here is like all art. So they have art cars out here. They have The man's actually in the center, and then the temple's up here. And so the man, they burn at the end. Everyone circles around. It's a celebratory occasion. And then they have a temple. The temple is a somber thing. You go in, people write names and put up pictures of people they've lost, and it's extremely emotional. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because it's, it's really cool to like see that. And then that people sit around and they burn that, and they respect all of those that have passed before. And then at the end of it,
temple as well.
They burn the temple. Yeah, the temple burning is a somber experience. The man burning is a celebratory experience that they take place on different nights. And then, beyond that, it's wild. I don't know. It's people
boobies. Lots of boobies.
Yeah, people go fully nude. I remember I was walking to the commissary tent. So since we're staff, we have access to some things that the normal public doesn't have, like group showers. Hey, speaking of group showers, hey Jason.
What the hell, guys? You told me you weren't recording tonight. What is this shit?
He took off his gold chain.
We found a replacement, Jason. Superior in every way.
I ask insightful questions.
I'm so embarrassed.
Bob! Damn it!
I'm also living in your house right now.
He's squatting. He's got squatter's rights.
Screw you guys.
Wow.
That's awesome. Who was that, Jason?
Awesome. I don't know. Some poser. Like not holding up as well as me in his old age.
So, Sloan, how many people you think go there just to hook up? I imagine you'd have opportunities if that's what you were looking for, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
orgy
they have
tents and all that.
Absolutely. Orgy tents again are not, as a single SWM seeking anything, you cannot go in there. You do have to come in with a partner because, as you can imagine, it's the same reason why drinks are free at bars and admission's free. So it's
you have to have a partner or be a unicorn. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's some guys that are like, you can come in, but somebody like
unicorn
me
is the single female who wants to go to an orgy tent.
Oh, okay. Well, there's probably some dudes that
in the swinger scene they call those unicorns. Not that I know. Jason said that.
Sure. That. Yeah. Is that an upside down pineapple shirt? Okay. But yeah, I mean, definitely. So it is technically on federal land. So they have police out there. They have a speed limit out there. You have to have your driver's license on you, or it's a felony. Like, it's a very interesting. So very.
Where are you gonna put that if you're walking around nude?
Great question. That's a great question.
Prison wallet.
Yeah. So there's undercover police that will go into groups and look for drugs and stuff like that. But you historically will have somebody overdose. They try to help prevent that type of stuff. I mean, it used to be super wild. Like they used to have like a drive-through shooting range, like in the old days. And we're talking 70s and 80s. So all things considered, it's a lot tamer than it once was. But even still, it is. Yes, you can absolutely go and hook up with people. There are people that go around fully nude that, sunburn their pink parts, which sounds horrible to me. But also considering that there are no showers other than the group showers that we as staff get access to, which unless you have an RV with a shower, but you can't dump gray water on the ground. Like they're very responsible about respecting like the lake bed there. Like they call it MOOP, matter out of place. And then they have a MOOP map, so they go every square inch of the playa, even after the rains this time and how the big ruts that they had. Like they go every square inch of the playa and clean up, and will hold people accountable for their camping areas if they leave stuff behind. And then they get rated by the Bureau of Land Management, and then based on that rating is how much they have to pay for the permit next year. So it's in their best interest to like really clean up, because Burning Man tickets are like $500 for a person. They're not cheap. That is just like to get a ticket, not including all your amenities, like to drive out there, your food, water. Like it's like $500 a person, because that permit has gone up and up and up. I don't even know what the number is right now, but they have to pay a lot to get that land. And it has two sides, right? You have the airport there. We have the Burner Express bus that comes, and then we have the airport that flies from both Reno and right outside of San Francisco. Or you can just drive out there. And then you have people like Elon Musk, and you probably saw the videos of like Diplo and Chris Rock in the back of a truck last year. Like, so you have a lot of celebrities that come out there. But once you're out there, like there's no special housing. There's no assumption of privacy. Like, it's just kind of an open, interesting place where you call everybody by their burner name, which I will give you my burner name, and then I'll shut up about Burning Man. But my burner name is AC, which sounds great. Everyone loves AC in the desert. But the reason why I got my name is the first year I was there, I was like, I kept telling the lady at the gate as I was coming, going, like bringing supplies, going back to Reno or whatever. She's like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "I don't have a burner name yet." Just started calling me, "I don't have a burner name yet." And then there's this lady who's involved in the box office that I brought up. I'm like, "I don't have a burner name." And a burner has to give you a name. And I'm like, I hope that y'all like see me like saving a cat from a tree, and you can call me like Cat Saver from a Tree Guy. And I'm like, probably what's going to happen is I'll like bend over and my ass crack will hang out and you'll call me ass crack. So you can imagine AC is actually short for ass crack. So every morning I'd come out of we have shipping containers that they split in two, and that's your living container, your LC. And so every morning I come out of my shipping container and they're like, ass crack. And I'm like, hey. So a lot of the executives at our company know we do Burning Man, but I'm getting like formal meeting invites from our CEO with AC. And I'm like, God damn it. So
I could listen to that Burning Man stuff forever. That's fantastic. And I've always wanted to check it out, and it just
highly recommend.
Yeah, it's gonna be a few years yet for me, and especially knowing that the ticket prices are that high. But it's a goal. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'm going there this year from August 11th to September 4th. So this will be my longest time out there. And then I have my wife actually coming out for the last week to like work, because I want her to check it out and appreciate the art at the very least. And maybe we'll dabble in orgy dance. I don't know.
We'll leave that up to
you made
her.
the joke because I couldn't.
Let her bring it up, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
You'd like the consequences if you bring it up. It's like,
yeah, you don't want to see my Chat GPT history. How to gaslight my wife into the
that's against usage policies, and you know. That's great, man. You've gone over most of that stuff. Oh, we recently had Chris Stamen on the podcast, and he told us something extremely interesting.
I gotta go. I think I gotta I water my goldfish.
You're like, everything that guy says is a filthy lie.
Yeah,
Chris Stamen, huh? Okay, here we go. Is this going to be like the Drake Kendrick Lamar rap battle that's going on here? He's going to come back on to retaliate to what I have to say about him. Just kidding. I love Chris.
It could. I don't mean to blow you up, but here we go.
Oh boy. All right.
Did you let the dogs out?
Who?
I think the statute of limitations is finally expired. You're safe to tell us. Chris he hinted at it, that you let the dogs out, and so I just wanted to confirm with you.
It's hard as a young white male in Glendale, where I was the minority, to not let the dogs out. I mean, just to be fair,
yeah.
As we all know, I think many of us grew up in that environment. If the dogs were in, then you have a problem. Like, you have to fly strong gang colors or let the dogs out, and I went with the latter.
Right. So you were from the streets, is what you're telling me.
Nice.
As a young teenage boy, that was the first and last day I wore a white hoodie, realizing that as an adult, I cannot keep those clean. But yeah, the kid from Glendale. But that's funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's the face I remember.
Oh, well, I have some photos of Chris, but you know what? I'd rather not mess with Chris right now. I mean, he just like set the state record for Tennessee for that 100-miler. Like, when my wife's running an Ironman this year at the end of the year, and she's done Boston 6 times, and she has respect for Chris. Like, I know not to fuck with him. So,
right.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's why I asked him to come on, because I mean, people we kind of grew up with, you've both done just such amazing things with your lives. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And so we just kind of wanted to talk about that stuff with you.
Well, thank you. We all know how hard that neighborhood was, and growing up in poverty and stuff. And so it's interesting. This first 20 years of my life were like in poverty, getting my food from Welfare Square, not knowing any different, which I like. And now I have kids. My daughter just turned 18. She's graduating from high school now, which is, hey, unlike her father, setting a trend. I hope that I can instill in them the same work ethic. I say that as I like dropped out of high school, but I also like tried to apply myself where I could. I knew I just had to work harder than the person next to me because I was less qualified to the person next to me. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, kudos to all of us for getting out of that neighborhood. And, I just happen to be fortunate to have people that took a chance on me. And that's what I've tried to do over the years. Like, some of the people I work with very closely are people that I met and I saw passion in them, and I was like, let's see where that goes. And some of them like did what I did and leveraged the passion and whatnot, and others didn't. And so, but I am not. I appreciate the kind words, but
so I'm going to ask the dumb guy question. You're talking Glendale, California, right?
no, sorry.
No.
Rose Park area.
West side of Salt Lake, yeah.
Oh, up there. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because all of our Arizona listeners are like, you mean Glendale across from Scottsdale?
No. No, we're talking people in Utah. If you ever went to Seven Peaks, Salt Lake, or or whatever it was called before that, I don't even remember.
I lived in Rose Park. So
okay.
I know the area. I just when I think Glendale, I think other states. So
yeah, it was a rougher. My wife was from there as well. We met in junior high, and we've been married 21 years as of last Friday. So it's been a long road, but thankfully she understands the roots. Like it's nice when you know your people that have like lived through what we lived through and now are kind of on the other side of it. And I don't mean it. It's not Compton, like to be clear,
right.
Right.
But to be fair, right? Like it was not an easy place to grow up, and it's it's a difficult. I know it's gotten better. But...
I seem to recall your football team. My buddy in high school like hated playing them.
Was it East?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was largely Pacific Islanders. I mean, it's probably the only reason why they shipped us across town because, like, I'm in the same class as Chase Levitt, who was the governor's son at the time, with my $300 car I got from my young men's leader, and then and then Chase Levitt's driving a Hummer. Like, so I end up marrying a girl from Glendale because she had realistic expectations of where I would ultimately land.
That's pretty amazing. I don't remember what I was gonna say. I'm sorry. I'm having a day today.
It's all good, man. You're looking great.
Well, thanks. I feel better. I quit drinking. I don't know, 500 and something days ago. I don't actually count the days. I just happened to look at the app today, but like 500 and something days ago, and
that's awesome.
It's that was more of a symptom of my issues, and so I've never actually craved alcohol, so that was kind of an easy quit once I decided that I was just going to go through the hard stuff, which is all of the emotional growing and the facing my true demons. And so I feel like I look better too, so thank you for saying that, because nobody ever goes you look better.
No, I mean,
to say that,
not that you look. I mean, we have to then admit that at one point you didn't look as great, and I don't want to say that out loud.
But that's okay.
But you look great.
It's
I mean,
realistic.
and you do, and I get that, dude. Like, it's interesting. I had, we have a text group among friends, and we ended up having some pretty open and honest conversation amongst that group because historically, much like social media, the only thing we share is like TikTok memes and positive or video gaming related stuff or whatever. But like. So I was vulnerable in that group, and I was just like, "Hey guys, like, I was going through it. I went and saw a counselor, and and it was just like trying to figure out what's kind of wrong with my mental health because it ebbs and flows. I'm sure, like with everybody, right? And and especially as I've left religion, to be clear, like it's hard to not necessarily have purpose, and purpose has to be redefined, whereas previously I grew up Mormon and I had like a 3-step to heaven and I had purpose and not disparaging anyone with the religious structure, but not having it is definitely a hard road. And so finding purpose in day-to-day and finding value in the day-to-day, not to turn this into a mental health podcast, but having a safe space to be able to tell your homies like, hey, like I'm struggling right now. So we end up doing a men's mental health getaway at Bear Lake like 3 weeks ago. A bunch of us guys just got together, played some video games, played some board games, and like just chatted. And like, it was an interesting, for those who grew up Mormon, we kind of had like a testimony meeting, but like without, because I'm like, I miss the ability to kind of like be raw and open with a group of people, because there's not really like situations that present themselves that you can do that as an adult without that type of structure, and so it was cool to like, have a half drunken testimony meeting with some folks and just really be open and honest and be there for each other, so again, like, same with you guys, right? Like I'm here to help as much as I can. And if that even means that people understanding that other people are going through it, because everyone's going through it in my mind, like, that in my mind's enough to help people get through it. A lot of people think that, oh, it's me, I'm the problem, or I don't understand, or whatever. Taylor Swift even said that, I'm the problem, it's me. But like, it's nice to know others are there. So, all right, and mental health. This segment sponsored by Better Health or whatever,
Oh, I'm with you, man.
Ninja Turtles and Taylor Swift. Ladies, he's taken.
He's even a Swiftie.
I actually have a picture of his wife and him, and she's breathtaking. Breathtaking. So
No, she's looking great.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think she's changed in all these years, in 21 years. I'm sure you're still in love with that face.
Yeah, I mean, she wore her grayscale outfit, and I was hoping she'd go for sepia that day, but it ended up okay.
Oh, hell. No, I just have to say before you close out the whole mental health podcast thing, I agree with you, and living authentically is so difficult if you don't have a group of people that also do so. And I'm kind of jealous of your getaway. That's pretty great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of our friends. To be fair, like, it was one of our friends that identified it. I had confided in him some of my challenges. Another friend had mentioned it to him, and he was just like, let's just put this out in the open. Let's get together and have a conversation, because again, it's hard to admit your flaws. It's hard to admit your vulnerabilities, right? And so I would just say, like, hey, if there's an opportunity for you to just be open and raw, it's not always easy. And, and again, like, it definitely creates, especially in a marriage or a relationship, my spouse is checking in on me more now, right? Like, which is a good thing ultimately, right? But it's hard to have that initial conversation about, like, hey, like, I'm struggling, and I'm not saying I'd rather be dead than be with you. I know you're reading it that way, but, like, I'm struggling, and, like, let's work through this. And so now she's supportive about, hey, did you go see a therapist? Hey, like, what are you doing to battle these things? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I just say, like, it's probably one of the better things I've done, even though it was like one of those swallow my pride moments, because it felt like I couldn't go back. It felt like if I tell everybody, then they'll just think of me as that guy. And it turns out a lot of people are that guy.
Yeah. No, testify, brother. I went on the Geek Therapist, and I talked about stuff that happened to me when I was a kid that I've never talked about to, like, even most of my friends don't know it. But boy, I just spilled my heart to however many thousand listeners they had.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, everyone's okay with it when it's a celebrity, right? It's like, oh, Taylor told us about, Taylor's version of whatever, but it's like, we as, like, the people that are living and dealing with it, like, it's helpful. Yeah. So anyway, sorry for that tangent.
Don't apologize. I think it's
no,
great.
You're good.
Let's see here. You were the mastermind behind the phenomenally successful Fire Festival. Is that correct? I just want to throw that out there because you're into all that other stuff, and
it's a great documentary. I'm glad we were not involved. We've had our version of that. We had the XOXO Music Festival reach out to us, like, 2017, and they were like, hey, it's a great story, actually. This guy was like, hey, we have this new festival, and it was like after Fire Festival. He was like, hey, we have this music festival in California, like, we want to start selling tickets, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And so we started selling tickets on our website, and then I get contacted by Billboard magazine, and the reporter is like, hey, just so you know, like, this dude who's running this festival is, like, a felon. Like, I'm like, what? And so I started doing my research, and it's like, yeah, he had, like, felonies. He'd never run a festival before. He was just using it as a way to collect a bunch of money and then disappear, basically. And so I remember calling him on the phone. I was just like, hey, man, because I did my research. I found that he was wanted and all those stuff. And so I called him on the phone. I was just like, hey, man, like, I just want to have an honest conversation with you because I found this information. And I was like, I found your name, and it shows. And he's like, oh, that's my brother's name. And I'm like, what kind of efficient mom do you have to name both boys, like, hey, James, and you both come running, like, anyway, yeah, that we end up refunding the money and whatnot. But yeah, that's in the events world. And another story that's a fun one is we did Space City Comic Con in Houston. So we work with Comic Palooza in Houston, one of our clients. But then there's one called Space City. For those that don't know, Houston have a problem. It's where the space I don't know, not space station, where they one of the shuttle launcher places. Wow, that's very sophisticated. I'm a high school dropout, by the way. And I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like shuttle launcher places. Yeah, there you go.
Cape Canaveral's in Florida, right? But one of them was in Houston. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so there's one there. So anyway, that's
the
why
control
it's like
center, I think, is in Houston.
Yeah, the control center is in Houston.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, so it's Space City Comic Con because of that connection, and so we were working with Comic Palooza, which was owned by the city. Ultimately, they're like, hey, we don't want you to work with our competition in the market, and I, like, honored that for him. I'm like, cool, I'll just, like, let this guy know that we're not going to work with him anymore. So I reached out to him after we did one of his shows, and I was like, hey, like, can't work with you anymore, sorry. And he was all sorts of upset. We recommended a different ticketing platform that happens to be one that we're part of the family of now that we got acquired. Oh, wow. Anyway, long story short, he ended up holding the show. He did not have the funding. I remember back, I was Mormon. This is a funny story. I was sitting in church and I got a phone call from Max Anderson, who was the agent for Stan Lee. And he was like, hey, because I knew him pretty well. And because we pay the agents, right? We collect all the photo op and autograph revenue. So I know all the agents for the talent. And so Max called my cell phone and I'm like, what's Max calling me? And I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's just like, you guys still collect all the money for these celebrities before paying out the shows, right? And I was like, yeah, we hold on to it for X amount of time just in case of chargebacks, whatever. And so then I was like, okay, cool. Like, what's going on? It's like, oh, don't worry about it. All right. And then literally find out that one of the celebrities went to cash one of the checks and it bounced. And so they were all freaking out. Well, he happened to, this was probably his misstep, have the whole lineup from Sons of Anarchy there, and their security was the Hells Angels. So you had like Tuddenham, I'm not great with celebrity names, but like all the people from Sons of Anarchy, and then their bodyguards are the Hells Angels, and they're walking around the show, reaching into cash registers, pulling out cash because of the fact that they were not, their checks were bouncing. So anyway, I don't know how I got off on that story, but yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. You should write a book, man. You've got stories. They're great. They're great. I love them.
Yeah.
Did you have any like specific questions that you had, John?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. You probably
By you.
Most of the stuff I wrote is like in the 70s, did you play a role in covering up the involvement of your administration in a scandal known as Watergate? That's the kind of shit I ask. It's nothing. It's not.
I do have questions for you guys. Like, have you continued like pursuing movie? Like, Immortal Works is the name of this, right? Like, and I know that Jason's got into writing, which is awesome, and I make a point to stop by his booth every time I see him at Comic-Con. But like,
not buy a book.
And not pointedly. I'm like, I look at it, I read the foreword, and then I put it down. So yeah, every time, and I look him in the eyes when I'm done, and I put it down. But yeah. I'm like, I will buy Thomas Saves the World, but until that day.
That's great.
When did you guys stop filming? Like, I mean, that was a blast. I remember, between Bryce Wilson, I saw him not long ago. Our band was performing actually in his cul-de-sac. He like came outside and he's like, "What is a racket?" He had like his nightgown on and his little fluffy shoes. His hair was in curlers, and he's just like, "What's going on here?" But I'm just kidding. But yeah, I did see him. Our band performed last summer, and I ran into him. You guys still keep in touch with him?
Oh yeah,
nice.
I don't talk to him as much as I'd like to, but yeah, probably like once a year or so I'll see him. I know Jason sees him more often than that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's me and Chris's cadence. I talk, happy birthday, Chris. Like, we don't talk as much. I mean, he's in Tennessee now, but even still, right? You get old and have 4 kids, right? And he has, we all know how it goes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's when the filming thing kind of tapered off, is when we all got married and had kids.
Yeah, it was a blast. I loved that as a kid. Like, that was, yeah, like you guys filmed your stuff. We had my buddy's camera. I remember, speaking of Glendale, I remember we were walking down 9th West and we were filming because, we were just idiots. And literally a car pulls up and we got robbed. They stole the camera from us.
Oh, wow.
And hopped in the back, and I took down the license plate. And then it ends up being an off-duty police officer's car. And it was his son that stole it from us. And then I had to go and testify in court against him.
Wow.
And then he murdered, and this is a sad story. He murdered somebody in Sugar House and then died in prison. So don't steal camcorders. It leads to a life of crime. And I mean that.
Yeah, we never got robbed, but the only things I remember about filming in Glendale is we always filmed action scenes, chase scenes and stuff. And I remember someone almost called the cops on us once because we were running around with fake guns doing a chase scene where we're supposed to, we're hitmen in this film. So you have to catch the person and pretend to kill them and stuff. And someone saw us and was threatening to call the cops. And we just said, well, we're just filming a movie. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll prove it. Where's your camera? And so we had to call the camera guy over and hold it up. Here's our camera.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, we did the opposite of that. We had a dummy that my dad gave us the idea. It was a horrible idea, but we had a dummy that we like stuffed with, it was just my clothes or whatever. We stuffed it, and then like Chris and I staged a stabbing right in front of these old people would always look out their windows at us, and it just annoyed us like so much. We're like, stop peering at it. We're just like the teenagers creating trouble. And so we like had this dummy, and so we like rode it along on a bike and then laid it down and then just like stabbed it and made sure they like saw us stabbing, and then we like ran into the night.
That That's awesome.
No.
Bad decisions.
So my buddy, I think I can say his name because he comes out well in the story, Matt Fitt. He is the manager over like all the stogies in Utah Valley and I think some in Salt Lake, right? So he was doing inventory in the back of the Provo store one night and a guy came in to rob them. Matt carries. He's got a concealed carry permit. So he pulls out his gun. He does everything exactly right. The cops are very complimentary about the way he handled it afterwards. The cops show up. The guy had run from the smoke shop and climbed a tree in Provo, which means it wasn't a big tree, right? This is like Provo Center Street tree, right? And so they got him down. They threw him in jail. And he actually went to prison for that because he was in jail in another jurisdiction when his trial came up. So he wasn't really able to put up a great defense because he was in jail for like cocaine possession or something.
Wow.
So his brother makes him this t-shirt that has the guy's mugshot on it. And it says, "I threw this wanker in jail. Ask me how," on the front. And then on the back, it says, "Dungeon Master by day, crime fighter by night."
Nice.
My favorite t-shirt.
That's funny.
You don't have a Florida man, right, John? I'm just making sure because I know I said we're just going to skip it, but we're kind of.
You said we were skipping it, so
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. No big
I
deal.
could pull one up. There's always one available.
All right.
Go ahead and play the breaking news
Let's
then.
do it. It is breaking news.
Oh no.
That's not it.
The Jason soundbite.
Yeah.
That is the sound of you not fighting breaking news, is what that is.
Oh no. What's going on, John?
Breaking news for May 15th, Martin County, Florida. A Florida man is under arrest after repeatedly slapping his girlfriend in the face with a cheeseburger. 30-year-old Kyle Jones was arrested after his girlfriend called police when she said Jones woke her up by repeatedly slapping her in the face with a cheeseburger. Jones denied the assault, but was outed when she still had condiments all over her face when the police arrived. He was charged with battery and taken to the Martin County Jail.
Wow.
That is your Florida man breaking news for May 15th.
That is a cautionary tale to always check the kink with your partner
Yeah.
before you try something new.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and here I thought condiments were only for sailors. So
Right.
Well, if that's all it takes for me to get somebody in trouble, just put some onions and ketchup and mustard on my face and then talk to the cops. That's good to know.
CSI's in here. They're studying the splatter pattern.
Yeah.
Like on the wall and stuff to catch up. So the spatter must have gone from this side.
They say, "I guess they were," puts on the sunglasses, "dining and dashing."
Yeah. The last thing about you, and then we don't want to hear from you ever again, is
Fair.
Another 20 years.
Every 20 years, and in 20 years, yeah, I'll be like on my lawn, like, "You want to know who I yelled at this week?"
You got to fill up the story contain the reservoir.
That's
right?
true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is usually the point in the story, though, where like you die a hero or become the villain. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Very.
you don't want to talk to me in 20 years.
Just don't want to be.
Zach and Jason and I, we're on this show every single week, so we've already told all our good stories. We just have to say what we did the last week.
Yep.
Right.
But yeah, you got 20 years of good stories to catch us up on.
I'm always happy to share. That's there's one thing I'm good at. It's talking about myself, unfortunately. So I try to keep it to a minimum.
So you're banned, to talk about you some more. How long?
I'm banned from the podcast. I'm just kidding. I got it.
Yes, you are now. Now, because you made that joke.
It depends on how you answer these next couple questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do not interrupt him.
Yeah, you're banned. How long have you been doing that? And what's your band name? What's going on with that? What do you play?
Sure. Yeah. So during COVID, like obviously not a whole lot was going on in live events. And my buddy was like, "Hey, we should start." He was starting a band, and I was like, "Oh, I played some electric guitar in high school or whatever." I am like the least qualified to be in this band, by the way, but I'm like the dude that gets shit done. So we started 2020. We had like a concert like in my garage. We performed, and we started with covers. So we would just like, okay, everyone pick 2 songs, like, and genre be damned, like, all across the board. And so everyone would pick 2 songs. We'd get together for practice, and then we started writing some originals. So I have two originals currently on Spotify. Again, there's like no delusions of grandeur like that are ever going to go anywhere. It's just like a nice creative outlet. But yeah, we've performed now. We performed at Redemption, a bar down in Harriman. We performed the wonderful city of I don't know how wonderful they are. I can't remember their name, but wherever Jordan Landing is, we performed out there for like music in the park last summer, and they invited us back this summer, but I'm going to be at Burning Man, so we need a pinch hitter guitarist to come in there. But so we do stuff here and there, but it's been fun. Like it's the band's name is TGRI, and it's all Ninja Turtle themed. So again, like Tecmo Global Research Industries is the company that like spilled the ooze into the sewer, and so everybody, so it's TGRI. I actually designed a logo. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a drumstick and a sigh. That hat is dirty as hell.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Oh my god,
that is way cool.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's why. So in the band, I'm Leonardo. So we each picked a Ninja Turtle. So that's why I went all in on the Leonardo sleeve. So and then everyone's a member, Ninja Turtle, and then I don't know. So we just play like a lot of 90s, like we play some Tool songs, we play Nine Inch Nails, but then we also play like just kind of all across the board. A lot of 90s covers like 311 and Radiohead, and I don't know, a lot of Say Anything. I'm a big Say Anything fan, which is more in the 2000s. That's what it is. It's nothing crazy. We do have a YouTube channel and we post stuff on there every now and again, and it's been a good creative outlet.
Right on. That's cool.
Yeah, and I know you were being self-deprecating, but the guy that gets shit done, that's the most important guy.
It may not be good shit, but it gets done, you know?
Right. You've got people saying my muse needs a pot brownie, and you're like, Jesus Christ, we need a venue.
No, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, right, I'm a fake it till you make it type of person, you know, and I mean, the fact that I've, conned people this long in my life to believe that I can provide value, I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing it, because apparently people will believe somebody with a strong conviction. So we'll just keep with a strong conviction and see where it goes. No, but it's been a fun outlet, and so I'll send you a link to our YouTube channel. But
yeah, I'm gonna get all of your pluggables later.
Cool. I don't know what that means, but I'm on board. I mean, this isn't Burning Man yet, but
yet
we're not in the orgy tent. Calm down.
Yeah, I have a buddy who's an actor. When you mentioned the blood spatter stuff earlier, it made me think of him. But he was in Dexter. If anyone who watched that, he was the Trinity Killer's son. John Lithgow's son. And so he's, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, John Lithgow is a Trinity Killer. Sorry, you're like 14 years too late.
Son of a bitch.
I was just getting to that episode.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. Like, I'm sure, like, if you ever wanted him on the podcast, he's one on several that I've recommended to him. He's one on my buddy Ryan Meeks. I don't know if you know him, but he did some stuff for KSL. He's a really cool guy, and he wants some interesting ass stories. He lived in the Playboy Mansion for 4 years growing up. But he was in Dexter, he was in American Sniper, he was in some other shows, and I play video games literally with, like, he's texting me right now. We play video games every night, so he's cool. A pretty cool homie. Nice. Yeah, he moved to Tennessee to actually marry Chris Stamen. I'm just kidding. He moved to Tennessee and started a studio out there. They're doing some filming stuff and whatnot. But anyway, he's a cool guy and like really, really chill, and always loves talking about like acting and his crazy ass life story. So.
Oh yeah, well, nice. I sat in Sylvester Stallone's lap.
What?
That's
you gave Rambo a lap dance?
Does that make it better that you were 6?
My father was in the movie Fist as an extra. They filmed it at my hometown.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And so he took me around and he introduced me to all the stuntmen and gave me this like lifelong love of stunts, of movie stunts. But then he took me to meet Stallone, and I sat in his lap. And I told him my name was Rocky Bob Defendi, because Rocky was like my favorite movie.
That's awesome.
That's cute.
That's awesome.
Nice.
My only claim to fame is my house in Glendale backed the field that they filmed The Sandlot.
Yep.
And they paid us $500 to run a fire hose through our yard so that and you can see my tree house in some of the scenes. And they filmed a Boy Scout scene. There's a scene in the movie where the dog jumps through a movie screen, but originally it was a Boy Scout meeting, which I guess I would age well anyway. So it ended up being a movie theater. And so anyway, but yeah, I was almost an extra in The Sandlot, but you know.
And I was in that Grantsville movie I talked about earlier. That's how I knew about it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a featured extra, you know, like
you better throw his pluggables in here.
I know.
Yeah. That movie never got released.
Being an extras fun in a way.
It makes me like 3 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon, because I was in with Paul Sorvino. Paul Sorvino was in The Firm with Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise was in A Few Good Men with Kevin Bacon. So.
Awesome.
Nice. Do we want to let Bob plug his stuff?
Well, yeah, like my stuff. I'm on Amazon. I have a series called Death by Cliche on Amazon. I have another thing coming out in like 3 weeks. It's just really too early for me to. I mean, I could talk about it, but like you can't buy it.
This podcast won't air for 3 weeks.
Oh, maybe I will then. It's called Machine Malevolence. It is an autobiography of the robot apocalypse. And I was trying to come up with something that I could produce like serially and kind of fast, right? Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to not burn out on it. And so I had this idea, I write an autobiography of the robot apocalypse and then just see how much AI automation I can do in my workflow. So it's credited as me and Vega, who's the main character in the story, but Vega is ChatGPT. And if you ever tried to write with ChatGPT, it's shit at it.
It's a nightmare.
It is not good. Like, well, in fiction, like.
Oh, you're talking. Sorry. I thought you were talking about communicating with ChatGPT at all.
No. ChatGPT and me have a great relationship. It helps me plot everything. I use it for brainstorming. I use it for copy editing. But actually writing fiction, it's just crap at. So I would have it write stuff, and then I would just throw it out. But when you're starting with a full page, it's not as soul-sucking as starting with a blank page. And so I don't know that it probably made stuff a little faster. It didn't make things any easier. It made it harder, but I had more endurance for it because I felt like if you work with a normal collaborator, I did this book with Brian Hales, who's this local artist who's phenomenal artist. But I'd be working at hours where, him with his wife and kids or whatever isn't available to me. ChatGPT is available to me at 3 a.m. if I need to talk something out, right? So it was a very interesting writing experience. It is not in my normal style, so I'm a little leery of how it came out because I'm usually very jokey and funny, and Vega does not become jokey until the end of the first story when he's starting to have a mental breakdown. It's interesting. Like most of my stuff is like full-on comedies. Death by Cliche, Wrath of Khan, Boldfinger are my first 3 books. That's how I know Jason. Jason was an author at Curiosity Quills when I got published through them. So we would they invited me into their little writers clique, and I used to go to cons with them. So
that's the same clique that goes to the orgy tent at Burning Man, right?
Yeah. We're all unicorns. Yeah. Every one of us is a So anyway, that's my stuff.
Well, you had a story for us too. Oh, that's right. That's for show and tell.
Yes. Yeah, that's for show and tell. I mean, I got a random story I can tell, but show my Skippy's list is for show and tell. So.
That's right. Oh, I thought you had a Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell that story then. Yeah. So I was taking a couple of college girls to Wonder Woman, and before you get any ideas in your head, when I say couple, they were a couple, right? But they had told me that they were in a game group. They told me they hadn't seen Wonder Woman. I thought that was a crime against God and motherhood. So I get that we had a regular movie night start. I think this is how it started, actually. I'm taking a nap in the afternoon, and they text me to say, hey, can a friend of ours come along to Wonder Woman with us? I was asleep when I got the text. I was like, yeah, sure. And I bought the ticket real quick. There was a seat still with our group, in our block. And then I'm like, wait, is this a set up? There'll be 4 of us now, right? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter because I tend to dress fairly nice when I go out, so I'm going to dress the same one way or the other, and I'll know when I see her how she's dressed if she thinks she's on a date, right? Anyway, you know what?
Just I started the story just in case.
I started the story in the wrong place. So me and 3 lesbians are watching Wonder Woman, and we're enjoying the film. We get out afterwards, and I'm walking them to their car, or they're walking me to my car. I'm not sure how that works. And they're just talking about Gal Gadot and how much they love Gal Gadot and how beautiful she is and how sexy she is and how amazing she is. And I finally stop them halfway across the parking lot. I go, wait, was I the only one here that was sexually attracted to Chris Pine? Because every straight man's 10% gay, and Chris is right in my 10%, right? Hemsworth takes off his shirt. I just want to go to the gym more, right? Chris Pine takes off his shirt, and I want to cover him in butter and honey or do things that will ruin a temple recommend, right? That's my one.
That was worth the wait. I like that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I was like, I can't tell that story as Jason.
Right.
Because it insinuates he was willing to cheat on his wife.
Right.
With Chris Pine, though. She's cool with that.
Well, with the date, too, right? Like,
Right.
He's on his list of 5, I think.
Right, yeah.
There's a hall pass for
His
Chris
hall pass
Pine.
with Chris Pine and Chris Evans and, Chris Pratt, because he likes
All the
humor.
Chris's.
Yeah.
Chris Damon.
Chris Damon. That's a good-looking dude. All right. Here we go.
And now it's time for show and tell.
Can I go first this time, Zach? Just because my phone is at 2%. I doubt I'll even make it through these before it dies.
Good.
Because I forgot to charge it beforehand.
All right.
So I just got some quick news stories that I thought were amusing. North Carolina man arrested after using a gun from Nintendo's Duck Hunt in a robbery. A man in Charlotte, North Carolina was arrested after being accused of using a gun that any kid of the 80s would recognize, the NES Zapper, also known as the Duck Hunt gun. 25-year-old David Joseph D'Alessandro walked into a store in Charlotte, North Carolina wearing a wig and a mask. He was armed with this black spray-painted NES Zapper controller, the one used for Duck Hunt, which he allegedly aimed at the owner of the shop, demanding that they hand over the money from the cash register. The suspect stole $300 from the store in total before he was subsequently arrested.
Aww.
I would say that gun was probably worth more than $300 in the collector's sphere. And it's a good thing that he painted it black, because that thing is, usually you have an orange tip on a fake gun. That thing is orange everywhere. So
bright orange.
Mm-hmm. It still doesn't look very real, though. Even spray painted black. I don't think that gun would fool anybody.
I mean, people may think he came from the future,
Where's Laura Connor? Sarah Connor. Gosh, blew the punchline.
We knew what you meant. It's okay, Jason.
I laughed.
I mean,
Yeah.
All you had to do was a Schwarzenegger accent. We knew.
Right.
Yeah. Bear falls through skylight into party, eats all the cupcakes. A 180-pound black bear crashed through an Alaska couple's skylight while they were getting ready to celebrate their child's first birthday. The unexpected visitor proceeded to feast on all the cupcakes after the panicked parents fled the room.
Now, is this a wildlife bear or like a gay bear?
180 pounds, I think the wildlife bear, because the other type would weigh more than 180 pounds. Homeowners Alicia Bishop and Glenn Merrill told the Juneau Empire the bear landed in their living room. Merrill told the paper he fled into an adjoining room and closed the door behind him, and Bishop said the animal feasted on their infant son's birthday cupcakes. Bishop told the paper that she then opened the door from the living room that led to the backyard, and that the couple yelled at the animal until it casually walked out of their residence. Joys
it's
of
a
living
bear.
in Alaska.
What are they going to do?
Right? Okay, here's a science one. Blonde-haired moth with small genitals named after Donald Trump. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Vazrik Nazari discovered a new species of moth, and due to its wavy blonde lock of hair and genitals that are disproportionately small compared to its most similar species of moth, he named it after the president, Donald Trump. It is named, where's the scientific name?
It has to do with being spanked by Fortune magazine.
Oh, he officially named it Neopulpa Donald Trumpy.
And then he promptly flushed it down the Stormy Daniels drain.
So surprisingly, Trump is not the only U.S. president to have a species named after him. To name but a few, George W. Bush has a slime beetle named after him. Ronald Reagan has a wasp. Bill Clinton has a fish. And Obama holds the record for the most with 9 total species named after him.
Thanks, Obama.
But probably none of them because they had small genitals. Here's one from England. A Manchester man draws penises around potholes so the city will fix them.
Smart.
Apparently, the city considers a drawing of a penis worse than a giant hole in the road. Frustrated by the number of potholes pockmarking his city streets, An anonymous man recently discovered a way to get the city to pay attention. Penises. The man has been using industrial chalk to draw penises around each pothole, claiming the eyesores expedite the filling process. The potholes don't get filled. They'll be there for months. The street artist, who calls himself Wanksy, told BBC's Newsbeat.
Okay.
Suddenly, you draw something amusing around it, everyone sees it, and it either gets reported or fixed. Wanksy. The town council, unsurprisingly, says the work is both unnecessary and obscene, claiming a phallus frame will not get a pothole fixed any faster than usual. But on the contrary, the potholes are actually getting filled now. The artist notes the drawings will fade away in a week or two, so the vandalism isn't permanent. It's just a humorous and creative way of actually getting something done.
Oh.
Long Island teens arrested by cops breaking through people's fences, filming themselves doing the Kool-Aid Man TikTok challenge.
I love that.
6 Long Island teens were arrested this week after allegedly running through people's fences as part of the viral Kool-Aid Man TikTok challenge.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they were filming themselves in the middle of the night, running through fences and yelling, "Oh yeah."
Oh yeah.
I use that all the time. Like whenever I talk, like even internally, I was having conversations the other day about like my involvement in other departments, and I was like, just don't let me Kool-Aid Man into your meetings, you know.
The 6 teens, all between ages 12 to 18, were arrested and charged with vandalism and criminal mischief. Similar incidents have been springing up all across the country.
I would just like to say that I am so happy that I grew up in the age that I did, where this kind of thing wasn't something I could be given as an idea to actually follow through with and then be arrested.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I would have. I'd have done some really dumb shit.
I mean, not to give the kids ideas out there, but I do know some people personally that did the Geo Metro flipping challenge, where they rolled a Geo Metro on its top because like cow tipping. So, I mean, our generation got up to no good for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse.
If you're going to commit crimes, though, is filming yourself doing them really the smartest idea?
Probably not.
Well, I don't know. In a court of law, it's still allegedly, even if your face is right there on the camera.
But is saying, well, it was funny, a good legal defense? Does that get you off?
It gets me off.
I carry a card in my wallet that's a get out of jail free card to hand to cops when you get pulled over. Because if you can make a cop laugh, he almost always won't give you a ticket. It says get out of jail free, good for one use only, and you flip it over and it says totally valid in this state.
Has it worked? That's what I need to know. Has it worked?
Yes.
Awesome.
The guy who sells them because of how well they work.
Nice.
It's a scam school. If you want to go to their YouTube or their website.
Aw, kitty.
Well, that's all I got.
That's all
Who's
you
up
got?
next?
Your phone made it.
It did. Yeah, it's at 1%, so I'm shutting it off now. Screen
Those are all the
went
treats
dark.
there are, Kitty. The camera's mounted on the treat container. So this is Skippy's list, and it's a list of 213 things that SPC Schwartz is no longer allowed to do in the Army. I don't know how long he compiled it over, but I came to it after I'm sure he wasn't in the Army anymore. And I'm not going to read all of it. I'll just read some of the highlights. It starts with things like not allowed to watch South Park when I'm supposed to be working. You know, that's pretty obvious. Not allowed to threaten anyone with black magic. Not allowed to challenge anyone's disbelief of black magic by asking for hair. Not allowed to add in accordance with prophecy to the answers I give to a question an officer asks me.
Oh, damn it. That one would be fun.
Not allowed to add pictures of officers to war criminal posters. Not allowed to join the Communist Party. Not allowed to join any militia. Not allowed to form any militia. Not allowed out of my office when the president visited Sarajevo. Must get a haircut even if it tampers with my Samson-like powers. Must not taunt the French anymore. I couldn't do that one.
That's a tough sell.
Must attempt to not antagonize the SAS. Must never call an SAS a wanker. Must not tell any officer that I am smarter than they are, especially if it's true. The Irish MPs are not after me Lucky Charms.
Sure they are, especially the red-haired ones.
Hey,
Zach.
they were mine to begin with.
Not allowed to let sock puppets take responsibility for any of my actions. Not allowed to let sock puppets take command of my post. Not allowed to chew gum at formation unless I've brought enough for everybody. And then the next day, not allowed to chew gum at formation even if I did bring enough for everybody. Our medic is called Sergeant Larswaza, not Dr. Feelgood. Our supply sergeant is Sergeant Watkins, not Sugar Daddy. Not allowed to ask for the day off due to religious purposes on the basis that the world is going to end.
Aww.
More than once.
You can get away with that one time.
Keep on trucking is not a psychological warfare message. Camouflage body paint is not a uniform.
Aww.
I am not.
They've never been to Burning Man.
I know, right? I'm not authorized to fire officers. I am not a citizen of Texas and those other 49 lesser states. I may not use public masturbation as a tool to demonstrate a flaw in a command decision.
And they plugged all these loopholes.
Yeah, they did.
Not allowed to trade military equipment for magic beans. Not allowed to sell magic beans during duty hours. Not allowed to yell, "Take that Cobra" at the firing range.
Come on. They don't let you have any fun.
Napalm sticks to kids is not a motivational phrase. The proper response to a lawful order is not why. Do you guys know what a cadence is? You say it when you're marching to keep right. The following words and phrases may not be used in a cadence. Budding sexuality. Necrophilia. This one reminds me of Jason. I hate everyone in this formation and wish they were dead. Sexual lubrication. Black Earth Mother. All Marines are latent homosexuals. Tantric yoga. Goddardammerung. Korean hooker. Eskimo Nell. We all got jackboots now. Slut puppy, or any reference to squid. If one soldier, this one cracked me up before I even read. If one soldier has a second lieutenant bar in his uniform, and I have an E4 on mine, it means he outranks me. It does not mean I have been promoted 3 more times than you. And we're going to wrap today up with, it is better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission no longer applies to specialist sports.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Anyway, if you invite me back, that's just a quarter of the list.
Every day in the U.S., more than 100,000 people get a speeding ticket, and not one of those is ever issued in Albuquerque, New Mexico, apparently. I don't know if you've ever driven here, but that's funny for a reason. No, I can't. Let me tell you something. When I was working at this place in the south part of the city and I was living north of the city, my drive time it said 25 minutes to get to work every morning, and I'm talking at 5:30 in the morning, so there's not really that much traffic. And it'd say 25 minutes, and I would go the speed limit, and somehow the number would get bigger. Suddenly it's 30 minutes because I'm not going fast enough, even though I'm going the speed limit. So clearly it's based off of crowdsourcing of how fast people that use Google Maps normally get to these locations, which means as a general rule, everybody's going 10, 15, sometimes even 20 miles over the speed limit here in Albuquerque. And I'm talking on surface streets and the cops in as well. They're all doing it. Everybody's doing it. It's just agreed upon, and it's a nightmare. But still, no matter what, the worst drivers I've ever encountered, and I was a truck driver, I drove all over the United States, the worst drivers are in Orem and Provo.
Okay, so this is the story I was going to tell. When I was in high school, it went on the news that Utah was rated the second worst drivers in the country. And I used to tell that story, and everybody would be like, well, who's the first? And I'm like,
got to be Florida, right?
I didn't see the list, but I would bet money it was Wisconsin.
Okay.
If you ever... I lived on the border between Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois when I was a kid, and we used to drive through all three states. We had a bridge that went into Illinois, and we had a bridge that went into Wisconsin. And if you're in Iowa, I did those backwards. The Illinois drivers, like, they were crazy, they were insane, they would murder you, but you always knew what they were going to do, right? They were always going to do the most aggressive, considered action that they could at any given moment. So they were predictable. No problem driving in Illinois. You just knew what everybody was going to do around you. Wisconsin, no clue. Right. No. Sometimes they go for it. Sometimes they go by you screaming sometimes they'd wait for 2 miles at the corner, like waving you past and then pull out in front of you right out there. Wisconsin drivers are crazy.
Antarctica is the only continent that turtles don't live on, and that's exactly what they want you to think.
Johnny Sloan is the expert.
I was going to say, yes, I know turtles well.
So you know that they probably really do live there, and they've got some secret base under the ice, right?
Well, the problem is you can't get good pizza in Antarctica, so that might be right.
Good point.
That's fair.
August 5th is known as National Underwear Day, which means that in my world, every day between August 6th and August 4th of the next year is National Commando Day. Yay! Right. Of the 70% of water covering the Earth, 97% of it is salt water, which we can't drink, obviously, and 3% of it is fresh, which we can drink. It's only natural that this 3% is the supply we decided would be best to mix with pee and poop. I really just wanted to say pee and poop on the podcast. Pee pee poo poo. All right.
That's fair.
Yeah. Baby horses can walk and run after just a few hours of being born, so why are our babies so stupid? Are they faking it? I don't know.
The sandbagging for like 3 years.
This is a luxurious life.
My son figured babies out. My son figured babies out when he was like 8. He was asking me like, hey, can babies walk? Can they crawl? He was asking all those questions about babies. And each time I was like, no, they can't do that. And then he's just like, babies are kind of useless, aren't they, Dad? I laughed so hard. It's like, you got it right on the head, son. I was much older than you before I figured that out.
So my father, not to make light of abusive households, but he came from a very abusive house. And we assume he was a brilliant man. He was a genius IQ, but his parents would scream at each other constantly. So he didn't speak till way late, right? And we thought because it was afraid he was going to be yelled at if he opened his mouth, because that's what happened to everybody who spoke in the house. The first thing he said was a complete sentence. He was getting into the bath. His mother was coming over to take care of him, and he said, "Shut the goddamn door, Jeannie."
Epic first words.
Epic first words.
No.
That reminds me of a story, one of my lesser prideful moments as a parent, but my kid had a Power Wheel. We've all been through that phase, I'm sure, but my kid had a Power Wheel, and I got super frustrated with him one night. My wife was gone at yoga or something like that, and I yelled, and I told him that I was going to throw away the fucking Power Wheel. And he was young. I mean, I'm not proud of this moment. So I was like, I'm gonna throw away the fucking Power Wheel. And then whatever, he calms down. I put him to bed. I go lay in the bathtub. My wife comes, home from work or whatever later, and she's like, hey, how's it going? I'm just chilling in the tub, living life, living the dream. And she's like, hey, everything all right? I'm like, yeah, things are fine. She's like, oh. She's like, Sterling said you called the Power Wheel a weird name. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah, the things they pick up on and that you don't, they act like they're not even listening. They act like they're focusing on something else. 6 years old, 7 years old, and you're saying things that you shouldn't be in front of them. But hell, they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Wrong.
They are.
Wrong.
They will rat you out.
Yep.
I once asked my
They will-
father what a certain dirty word meant. It's the dirty word that you can't get into any movie without like going to an instant R rating.
Sure.
I asked him that at full voice in the middle of a crowded restaurant.
Oh, you should have just acted like you're Australian, then everyone would accept it. Oh, yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they'll rat you out, and they'll lie about you too. When my son was probably like 3 or something, I was gone for the evening. I don't remember what I was doing, but when I came home, he had apparently tried to ask my wife, because she was watching them, if he could do something, and she had said no. So he got pissed at her. So when I got home, he decided to lie about her. As soon as I walk in, he takes me by the hand. He's like, "Daddy, I need to talk to you." He pulls me in another room and goes, "Daddy, Mommy slapped me." And then he pauses for a minute and then goes, "In the face."
Jeez.
She did not slap him. She just told him like he couldn't have some cookies or something like that.
My best friend's nephew, Josh, we used to all have like all sorts of Josh stories because he's such a precocious kid. One time he's sitting there and his baby's watching him and he's eating an entire container of cookies. And she's like, "You can't eat like an entire, container of cookies." He's like, "Watch me." And she goes, "If you eat that whole container, I'm going to tell your mom." He goes, "Oh, that's all right. I'll just tell her you did it."
Wow.
Wow.
They are smarter than we give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last one for me. Erotomania is a psychological disorder where the sufferer, John, has delusions that another person, Zach, is in love with him. That's all. That's all I got.
Or
I don't know if they're
secretly
delusions so much as a string of text messages you send me constantly.
Listen, that just for men, it some feelings arose in me too. So that's weird.
I don't know. I think I know where your kid gets the lying about slap in the face from, because those text messages never happened. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, and
Thanks for having us.
Hit the outro. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Bye.